I want to introduce to you today Dr. Brandon Beck, who comes to us from San Marcos. He's a member of St. Mark's Episcopal Church, and he's been a lay chaplain for several years, very involved with the board and many Benedictine practices. And so welcome, Brandon.
Thank you, Tricia. So we're talking about care for the caregiver, and the Benedictine rule for today and this previous week says everything you need to know. So thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Just kidding. But yes, as Tricia said, the rule set me up perfectly. I'm going to begin by reading a prayer from To Bless the Space Between Us by John O'Donohue. This one is called For One Who is Exhausted. When the rhythm of the heart becomes hectic, time takes on the strain until it breaks. Then all the unattended stress falls in on the mind like an endless, increasing weight. The light in the mind becomes dim. Things you could take in your stride before now become laborsome events of will. Weariness invades your spirit. Gravity begins falling inside you, dragging down every bone. The tide you never valued has gone out, and you are marooned on unsure ground. Something within you has closed down, and you cannot push yourself back to life. You have been forced to enter empty time. The desire that drove you has relinquished. There is nothing else to do now but rest and patiently learn to receive the self you have forsaken in the race of days. At first, your thinking will darken and sadness take over like listless weather. The flow of unwept tears will frighten you. You have traveled too fast over false ground. Now your soul has come to take you back. Take refuge in your senses. Open up to all the small miracles you rushed through. Become inclined to watch the way of rain when it falls slow and free. Imitate the habit of twilight, taking time to open the well of color that fostered the brightness of day. Draw alongside the silence of stone until its calmness can claim you. Be excessively gentle with yourself. Stay clear of those vexed in spirit. Learn to linger around someone of ease who feels they have all the time in the world. Gradually, you will return to yourself, having learned a new respect for your heart and the joy that dwells far within slow time. Our time together today, talking about care for the caregiver, is really going to be focused on self-care. And part of self-care is asking for what you need. And in a large Zoom session like this, and I know y'all have been doing this for 13 weeks already, but a couple of things that I need in a large Zoom session like this are to come prepared for Zooming and then to take care of myself after Zooming. And I always know before I come to a large Zoom session that a couple of things that are going to bother me are that not everyone Zooms in the same way. Some people are very, very comfortable with all the background noise that happens on Zoom, because some of us are very, very conscientious of muting and unmuting, and some people aren't. And I can't control what other people do. We all know we can't control other people, but we want to so badly. And so I prepare myself before I come in with meditation and prayer to accept that other people are other people, and that it's going to be okay that there are background noises, and that people are going to talk over each other and not realize that that sounds cacophonous on the other end of Zoom. And so I prepare myself. I take care of myself before I come into Zoom. And another thing that I know about Zoom is that I really can only look at myself. I can't look at all of your other boxes. And that's disconcerting sometimes, because if we were all in one room, I would feel your individual energies. I would see each of your faces, and it would be very different experience. And so I have to really talk to myself and meditate and pray to remember these things before coming into Zoom. And so I hope that all of you have learned over the last 13 weeks and since COVID that these are things you can do to take care of yourself also in Zoom sessions. And then after Zoom, I have to really have time by myself. If I go straight back into my family of 5 kids and a partner, today we're driving to her mom's house for Thanksgiving, which is a 4-hour drive. If I don't take time by myself after this, before I go into that situation, I won't be prepared to not complain when I get with them. So I'm going to go for a walk after this. We have a beautiful trail out here behind the church. We have a labyrinth. I'm going to have to take some of that self-care time too. So this is the kind of thing that makes this module so important, because being in a large Zoom meeting is very similar to going and sitting and listening with someone who has huge pastoral care concerns. We use so much of our own personal energy in those situations that we have to do that preparation and recovery in a self-care sense. So our objectives today are to learn to identify and honor our own needs and limitations, to recognize self-care as a vital component of pastoral care ministry, to distinguish between empathy and sympathy. And I'm not going to really talk much about that because you did that in a previous module with Tricia. To establish personal boundaries, to relate Benedictine spirituality to self-care, and to conclude that the circle of care, the circle of hope, the circle of community, however you call it in your individual parish, is intended to sustain community, bonding, and debriefing. So we're going to move into a quote that's in the rationale section at the beginning of your module in your folders, where Dr. Margaret Rink is quoted from her book, Can Christians Love Too Much? And the quote that is shared from her says, "The mistake many Christians seem to make is that because Jesus is the great model for our behavior, and because it is God's will for us to become like Christ, we forget about our human frailty. We assume that our frantic giving, helping, and loving, as well as our feverish volunteerism, are all as selfless and perfect as our Lord's. We forget to ground our identity, self-worth, and service, or who we are, in Christ, not upon the service we perform for other people, causes, or institutions we love." Let me just let that sit there for a second. We are precious to him as those people we are serving. And sometimes we forget that. We run ourselves ragged trying to demonstrate that we know others are precious to him. And we forget how precious we are also. So let's look at some of these Bible verses that support this theory of how precious we are and how important it is to care for ourselves, to demonstrate that we know we are precious and we can care for ourselves too. I hope some of you have Bibles near you or have access to one or know how to look up Bible verses on your devices that are near you, because we're going to play a little old-fashioned sword drill. A sword drill, for those of you who don't come from fundamentalist evangelical Baptist backgrounds or the like, is when I name a verse and you rush through your Bible until you find the verse, and then you say, got it, and whoever says got it first gets to read it out loud. If you have it memorized, that's even better. When I say the verse, you just say got it because it's in your head, and then you say it to me. Oh, I like it. Some people already know. They've got their hands on their Bibles ready to go. Look at that. Love it, Nancy. And so, yes, you might want to be unmuted for this because I'll need to hear you say got it. The first verse I'm looking for is Mark 12, 29 through 31. I didn't hear anybody say got it, but I see Nancy's got it.
Mark 9 through. Got it.
Awesome.
Mark 12, 29 through 31.
29.
Kathy, you want to read it for me?
Is it the one that starts? So I'm using my device. Is it the one that starts the most important one?
Yes.
The most important one, answered Jesus, is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, our Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we've got our great commandment. Love God, love your neighbor, love yourself. Here comes your next one. 1 Corinthians 13, 13.
Got it.
All right. I don't see who said that. Let's go. Whoever that was that said got it, read it to me.
And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the
Thank you, Ann.
greatest of these is love.
Yes, the greatest of these is love. All you need is love. That's where we're going here with this theme. All right, here's the next one. John 13, 34 through 35.
Say
Got
that
it.
again, please.
I will, and then Anna's going to read for us. John 13, 34 through 35.
I like this game.
Good. Read it for me, Anna.
I give you a new commandment. Love one another just as I have loved you. You must also love one another. By this love you have for one another, everyone will know that you are my disciples.
Everyone will know you are my disciples because of love. And finally, 1 Corinthians 12, 26.
Got it.
All right, Gretchen.
If one member suffers, all suffer together with it. If one member is honored, all rejoice together with it.
Great. So that brings us into the suffering, but more importantly, honoring. And we honor with love, as we heard in the first three verses. And going all the way back to Mark and the Great Commandment, we have to love ourselves equally to the way we love everyone else. And we all are here today because we're called to pastoral care, which means we inherently know and are gifted by God with the ability and skill to love others. And so we have to love ourselves first equally as God loves us. And sometimes that's really, really hard to do. Some of us are most called to pastoral care because there are wounds in us that need to be healed. And we rapidly and easily reach to others to heal them.
Yes.
And forget to heal ourselves. So, Andy, we're going to do a breakout room, but before you send people away, let me tell you how this is going to work. This is a technique from the practice of presence, which is a Jungian psychology that's been further developed by the theorist H.A. Almas, who does something called the diamond heart approach. And this is a technique he uses called the cyclonic in the practice of presence. So you and your group are going to take turns answering 2 questions, one at a time, 1 question at a time, and 1 person at a time. And you'll get to answer over and over because you're giving a quick, without thinking, 1 or 2 word response over and over around your circle. The first question is, why do I serve? So for 3 minutes, you'll have to have a timekeeper in your group. For 3 minutes, you're going to go around the circle in order. Why do I serve? And you're just going to give quick answers. I serve because I'm called. I serve because I love. I serve because when I was little, I got hurt. I serve because my mom served. Over and over, quick answers. And then after 3 minutes of answering that question, you'll take 1 minute of silence. Then for 3 minutes, you'll answer the second question. How am I precious? And that's obviously a harder question for some of us. I'm precious because I serve. I'm precious because I have a beard. We don't know where it's going to go. Spit them out quickly. If you need help from your group finding an answer, let them tell you how you're precious. 3 minutes answering how I'm precious, and then a minute of silence. So that gets us up to 8 of the 10 minutes Andy's going to give us. The last 2 minutes, you can just share with each other how the process felt and what you learned from doing it. And then Andy will bring us back. Questions?
Sounds good.
Do you belong in again?
Say that again, Andy.
I've got Kathy asking for admittance and I don't have a on which room to put her in.
Kathy is with number 1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. All right, Andy, we're ready when you are.
Okay. Okay, Brandon, you're with us. Pam, are you there?
I'm here, but I need to fix my sound.
We can hear you.
I can't hear you, and I don't want to cause a bunch of noise.
Yeah, I'm getting text here. Hang on. Let me see what's going on.
Now's a good time to play with it, Pam.
Yep,
You got us?
I'll fix it. You guys talk.
Okay, we're waiting for Andy to talk to other people with his tech stuff. So
Okay.
He's in number 1.
yes.
Okay, got her.
Hi, Andy. Can you please let me in group 1? Sorry.
You're in.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Pam, we're gonna stay in the main session, so you and,
I can't hear you.
you can't hear me. Hmm.
Let me type her a message. Y'all get started, Andy, and
Just tell her that, she's in the main session with us. Kathy's still trying to get herself into a breakout room.
Do I do it myself?
You
The
should have an
breakout room.
invitation to join a breakout room. And you have.
Yeah,
to-
breakout room 1, I'm still with you guys. Do I do it myself?
Yes,
I don't know how to put myself in a breakout room.
as I say, you should have an invitation on your screen that says you may join the breakout room, or you're invited to join a breakout room.
I don't see it.
Joined.
I don't see it. I'm gonna just, do I leave this one?
I'm gonna change machines.
Yeah. Do I leave this one?
This one.
I'm just gonna log off.
Tell her to be with-
Sorry.
You can be with us, it's fine.
Kathy,
No, I actually, I have, I already told Lynn in my group that I have a conflict of the schedule. And I was just like planning to like participate when I was,
There, now you should have the invite. Okay. Kathy's taken care of. Brandon, are you on with us?
I am.
oh, Brandon, I'm thinking about your your whole thing of how you have to prepare. I wrote it all down, Brandon. Background noise that you got accepted, zooming is hard on you.
Okay, we can go, Pam will join when she
Mute,
joins.
not mute, can't control it, try to accept it. So you prepare yourself for it. Are you prepared for it, Brandon?
I am. And it looks like Andy is too.
Yes.
Prepared for what?
Exactly.
Zooming, and all it entails.
I hate doing two things at once. It's not in my nature.
And
I
you,
don't.
Yeah.
Multitasking.
And
I'm a
you're-
single channel brain.
and you're definitely doing more than two things at once, no.
So Andy, why do you serve?
Because it kills me to see people in pain.
Hmm.
It just does. And I've been in pain. And so I've reached an age where there aren't very many kinds of emotional pain that I haven't experienced in my life. And so when I see people who are in pain, my memory pulls up my experience with that pain and I can't stand it. And so I have to relieve their pain if I can. And help them, and this is where I tear up, to tell them they don't have to be afraid anymore. You don't have to be afraid. That's really.
Pat, why do you serve?
Did you ask?
Why do you serve?
I don't know. Why do I serve? I don't know, because I like to be around people that love Jesus. I like to be around people that know him and care about him, and I want to be with them, and so therefore you got to serve because that's where they are, you know. But when I first heard the answer, I thought, I don't like to serve at all. You know, I like to sit back and just go to church and listen to, and I like to be filled with spirit. I love the worship, and I'm perfectly happy to go home and be by myself and God and not do anything for anybody or anything. So see, it's a kind of a schizophrenic person in that respect, so. A lot of times I serve only because I think I should, and maybe I don't really want to, but I do it out of thinking all these people are doing this, it's just so hard. It's so unfair to them, and everything. So that's my thought, Brandon. That's my thought. Has my time gone up?
Pam, we're going around and answering, why do I serve?
Pam, can you
Just
hear?
a quick answer.
Pam, can you hear?
I can. I changed machines. I'm called.
She's called, see, she feels called.
And I can vouch for that.
And I do not, I have not felt called. All that business in the fundamental church, you definitely have to be feel called, you feel called. And, and I told God, I don't feel called, And he says, then you're not listening, So, I don't know.
Well,
Okay.
as you well know, in the evangelical church, you do need to feel called, and
Oh, yeah.
the way they teach it, if you don't feel called, then there's something wrong,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
and you should feel guilty.
And see, there you go. And so I feel guilty, for. Yeah, you're right. I know when when Pam got up and gave that talk about doing this job, and I just I didn't feel called when she was talking. So then I go out, and in the narthex, she hands me this invitation, this thing, this little card with all the facts on it. And I said, okay, I'll go home, I'll pray about it. I will pray about it. And so I did pray about it. And I thought, and God said, you can do it. Quit putting yourself down. Just give it a try. You can do it. And don't try to be a perfectionist, and just try. So anyway, that was my calling. He doesn't put anything on me. He doesn't give me a hard time.
We're down to 40 seconds.
Oh, good. He doesn't expect a lot from me.
We haven't heard from Brandon. Why do you serve?
Yeah, Brandon, why do you serve?
Ego.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
It feeds your ego. Oh, I don't have any ego. I don't know. Well, thank you. I wish you could be more honest. Could you be more honest in your, we took the time up.
Why are you precious?
Yeah, like.
Because I'm humble enough to admit that it's my ego that makes me serve.
Fair enough. Why are you precious?
Beats me. God, I deal with that all the time. And he said, look, I'm the potter, you're the clay. Get it straight. I made you this way. Do not quit comparing yourself to everybody else. I like you. I like you the way you are. I'll put up with you. I can work with you, and quit trying to compare yourself to everybody else. That's why I'm precious. So,
Why are you precious, Andy?
Simply because I'm a child of God. I know He loves me
see, I don't think I
just
know
because
that.
I exist.
I don't think I know. I know.
I don't have enough ego to say I have any. The only value I have is what God empowers me to do. I don't feel precious, but I know I am.
Yeah.
Because when
Why are you precious, Pam?
Yeah, Pam.
Because I'm a child of God.
I see,
Pam and I are a lot alike.
you're a lot alike.
That's all you have to be, is a child of God.
That's right. That's exactly.
Well, I mean, I tell God, well, two things. First of all, you're a child of God. Well, I mean, okay, you tell me I'm a child, I guess I am, but,
You are. I'll tell you.
yeah, thank you.
So Pam and Andy.
God, why do you, oh yeah, you said because. Well, go ahead.
Tell-
Brandon.
Yeah, I'm gonna push Pam and Andy here. Give me a specific detail that you know about yourself that demonstrates to the outside world that you're a child of God. Because somebody like me, I struggle to know that about myself. Like,
Me too.
I'm a see to believe person. I have a hard time with faith as an abstract concept. I believe, yes, I believe, but why do I believe? Help me know that I believe.
Gotta be short, we're out of time, guys. Pam, go ahead, real quick.
It's about faith.
Yeah, but I need evidence.
You want my evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I precious? I have a lot of people that love me.
Okay, thank you.
My evidence simply is, I'm not afraid anymore.
Okay.
I took that
Yeah.
away.
And the reason I ask that is because we might be in pastoral care situations where we have someone who's doubting because of the crisis they've been in. And just saying, I believe you are a child of God, just have faith, may not work, but you can give them evidence
right.
like that.
You're right.
Gotta go, guys.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, it was great. Actually, we're not going anywhere, but we're making everybody else come back.
How am I precious? Beats me.
That's, pray about that.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
How am I precious?
How are you precious?
Yeah.
Because you are. I mean, I
Well,
can tell you intellectually you are,
yeah, but
but
that
until you
doesn't matter.
connect with it, with your soul,
Soul,
it's not real for you.
right?
But it's,
Pat,
Yes.
ask Pam, ask your daughter, why are you precious? Why am I precious? She'll tell you. How about that you go to church every Wednesday and pray for Zachary? Every Wednesday you go to the healing service and pray for Zachary. There you go.
Perfect, Pam.
bang.
Thank you all. I hope that something fruitful came from that. In the group that I joined, when we finished, thank you, Andy. In the group that I joined, when we finished going around, we got to talking in more detail about why am I precious? And it was very easy for us to say I'm precious simply because I'm a child of God. But we pushed into that a little deeper and talked about how in pastoral care situations, if we're sitting with someone listening to them in a moment of doubt because of their suffering, it's important for us to be able to listen and then also help them by modeling that we know our preciousness, even if it's just holding that space where in our own hearts we know our preciousness for a specific reason. Why do we know? How do we know? So that they can see beyond their doubt. I know I'm precious because I'm a child of God, and I see it every day because other people love me. And that then can move them beyond that place of fear and doubt and questioning. Yes, I'm suffering this terrible thing. You're here listening, you're offering communion, you're offering prayer, but I'm a precious child of God because you're here. I know it because you're here. And that's part of being a chaplain, is loving yourself so you can love others, so they can remember their connection to God. And Nadia Bolz-Weber is sort of a superhero to me in chaplaincy. She is a priest in the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America and a public theologian. She's written many great books and does public pedagogy online. And she tells a story of when she was in her clinical pastoral care rotation during her ordination process. And it guides me in what it means to be a chaplain. And this is the story she tells. She says, I was a hospital chaplain because to be ordained in my denomination, you have to do what's called clinical pastoral education. Basically, you fill out a form and they give you a clipboard and a name badge, and suddenly you're the chaplain. It's almost like saying, oh, you want to drive a cab for a living? Here are the keys to an ambulance for the next 3 months. But I learned more in that experience than almost any class in seminary, to be honest. I found that I really wanted to be in the ER or in the ICU. I felt more comfortable because in those really dire situations, in those holy moments, people try to open up a channel to their divine source, whatever language or image they have for that. The first time I was in the trauma room, they were cutting the clothes off this man, opening up his chest, and it seemed like chaos. But if you paid attention, everybody knew what they were doing. Each person was very clear what their job was, except me. At one point, there was a nurse who had a second. I asked her, what am I supposed to be doing? She said, your job is to be aware of God's presence in the room. And I thought, who would want any other job? And that's it for us as lay pastoral caregivers. When we go and visit, when we are at church on a Sunday wearing our Diocese of West Texas lay pastoral caregiver name badges, our job is to be aware of God's presence in the room so that others in their struggles, in their need for prayer, in their need for God's presence, have the space to find that, have the time to look for that, because we are embodying it, because we know it. And that's why we have to take care of ourselves so that we can be aware, unencumbered. I was on a silent retreat at Mustang Island last weekend that Mother Nancy Springer from St. Francis by the Lake led. And during that retreat, we focused on the verse from 1 Samuel 16, 7b. If you want to look that up, this is a great opportunity since I know we were already looking things up. But basically, that verse, in paraphrase, talks about how God looks at people's hearts, not what they do or how they look, but looks at their hearts. And that we too are called to look at people at their hearts. The soul is another way to describe that. And part of self-care is knowing our own hearts first before we can look as God does at other people's hearts. Know yourself, love yourself in order to care for someone else, to see as God sees into the heart of someone else. And Mother Nancy teaches beyond that verse, saying that we need to know who we are and whose we are in order to walk, love, and serve in this world. And part of that work for me, that asking, who am I and whose am I, fits very well with the debriefing checklist and debriefing card in Community of Hope. I know better who I am and whose I am in pastoral care situations when I'm able to sit with an accountability partner, a prayer partner, a circle of trusted friends, mentors, colleagues, and ask tough questions about how a process went. And the Community of Hope debriefing questions work in the kind of work we do in Community of Hope, as well as many other things I do in my life. Argument with the partner, go find a spiritual director and debrief through these questions, and I'm reminded of who I am and whose I am. God is number one on my hierarchy of values. My partner is next. And if I don't know myself in God, then I don't operate well in my partnership at home. And those debriefing questions with a trusted circle of friends help in that, just like they do going in and out of a caregiving situation. So in the large group here all together, we're going to talk a little bit about how debriefing helps you care for yourself so that you can care better for other people's. Some of you are experienced Community of Hope lay chaplains. And so you can talk more to how going out and doing a visit and coming back and debriefing with the circle applies directly to this. All of you have had an opportunity to look at the debriefing card and the debriefing checklist and can apply it to your own lives in lots of circumstances. You maybe have only done one visit. You maybe have done no visits yet. So it may not apply directly to Community of Hope yet, but we all have experiences in knowing ourselves, caring for ourselves, and then talking it through in order to care for someone else. So if someone would like to begin for us, I just want to hear a little bit about how that process of debriefing, maybe even some of the specific questions that we have from Community of Hope, help you in that caring for self, knowing who you are and whose you are in order to move forward. And I have someone that I'll pick on to go first if no one volunteers right away.
Just remember, if you need to speak, you'll have to unmute.
Well, Brandon, I'll speak because, I like for people to speak.
Thank you, Lee.
Okay. And I'm going to speak a little differently because part of what Community of Hope has done for me is it's helping me be a leader. It's helping me get over my fear, but I need to practice this. Last night I had a meeting with 10 people and I started it. I started it with a talking stick. And because I wanted people to hear each other and not debate. And but I'm thinking about another meeting I had earlier in the week. And just the one thing that I want to bring up is how, for me at least, how important the undercurrent of emotion is. Because for me, my emotions control my thoughts more than my thoughts control my emotions. Okay. And I was realizing if I could have just gotten to the undercurrent of my emotion before I started these meetings, it might have gone a little better and I might have been able to communicate in a calmer manner instead of being so nervous. In a particular meeting that I was in, I had an undercurrent of anger because I had let things go too far in not taking care of myself. And I was like, this is it. I'm full to the top. And I'd like to do this diplomatically, but that anger was the undercurrent. And I wish I could have noticed that before I started the meeting so that I would have felt more open to the divine presence. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Someone else. I know sharing in a big group like this is not the norm for this cohort and also not comfortable, but let's lean into that discomfort.
Go ahead.
Ruth, go ahead, and then we'll hear from the Laura group.
I don't have my list of questions with me, but the one I'm thinking of is how is God present? Because that automatically kind of gets me thinking of it as not being just me that I have.
Great, thank you, Ruth. All right, Laura group.
Okay, when Lee was speaking, it just brought to mind how important it is for me to do some self-prayer, prayer with my partner if I'm going with a partner,
before I begin the visit to make sure that I'm in a place where I can be open to God's will and be open to the presence of God. And if I go in with an attitude, it's not going to be good, and it's going to be worse for the care receiver. That's why I'm glad you're talking about self-care. I need to be really in touch with what's going on with me before I go into a session. If I'm harboring a grudge, or if I'm ticked off about something that happened earlier in the day, it's not going to be good for me, or especially for the care receiver.
Thank you.
For me, the key question is, what did you learn?
Thank you, Anna. Do you want to say more about why? Or are you okay with just saying what?
No, I can tell you why. Because I think that's the purpose of life, is to go through an experience and learn something from it. And that is, for me, in my journey, has been the key to what I recognize as spiritual growth, is when I can go back and say, oh, this happened. That happened. This is how I need to, it's growth for me.
Thank you. Gretchen.
A general comment about debriefing, which is that I think it is so helpful to hash over what happened after you've had a visit. And, you can learn so much from that. And the other thing is, I can learn a lot from other people's stories and growth, and I can see myself in them or not, or whatever. So it really is a valuable practice.
Thank you, Gretchen. Yes, bringing it back to the circle. There are many reasons that we meet with our circle. Many reasons. But one of them is to hear each other's stories, pray over each other's stories, support each other in the work we're doing. Community of Hope does visits, yes, but we do so much more. Many of us encounter caregiving opportunities every day of our life and to do visits. In fact, I would say every single one of us does that. And debriefing with our circle, our lives, is very, very important. Thank you, Gretchen. All right, so let's attach all of this to Benedictinism. There are two main parts of the Rule of Benedict that I want to bring together with this, and I'm taking this straight out of the module. I just want to talk through it a little bit. Chapter 7, the Ladder of Humility, and chapter 19 are the two places that I'm going to go here. The Ladder of Humility, I'm going to use, just as the module does, as a metaphor for how we connect with other people and with God. And it comes back to how we care for ourselves in order to care for others, in order to connect humanity to the divine. The Ladder of Humility, according to Benedict, is a structure similar to Jacob's ladder. And again, I'm in chapter 7 of the rule. And one pole of the ladder is the body, and the other pole of the ladder is the soul. And the rungs of the ladder are steps in community building to help us ascend to the divine. And when we're thinking about self-care, the self-care process, according to Benedict, is building community in body, mind, and soul. And so that ladder is just a visual image we can keep in our hearts and our minds and our bodies to remind us that working together and integrating our whole self is important when we're drawing closer to God and calling God closer to ourselves, which is our ultimate goal in this journey of existence here. I love the Ladder of Humility anyway. Chapter 7 is probably my favorite part of the rule because it doesn't necessarily directly apply to what we do here in our time. some of the things like speak gently without laughter isn't really the way we operate. Our circle loves to laugh, but we still get the intent of that part of the ladder of humility. We're not going to cause a riot and run amok through our parish hall. We're not going to laugh at our care receiver's pain. We're not going to tease each other. But when we find joy in something, we will laugh, because that is a more common practice in our society than it was in a cloistered monastery where silence was a more practiced art. And these steps on the ladder still are a good way for us to look for that moderation, that prayer practice, that contemplative practice that is so much an important part of what Benedictinism is and how it can help us with that self-care in community. What does it mean to be humble? The way Benedict describes it may not be the way you understand it. Some people have related the rungs on Benedictine's ladder to the 12 steps of AA. And even if you're not in recovery from alcohol or drugs or some other substance, all of us can benefit from thinking about what in our lives is a temptation, what in our lives distracts us from God. And those kind of principles of, what do I need to make amends for? What in my current line of thinking is distracting me, can fit in with this ladder. And so we integrate body, mind, and soul to draw closer to God. And that fits very well with self-care. Chapter 19 of the rule, which we read most recently on October 26th, so not too long ago at all, contains this idea of God is always watching us, and concludes with the concept that our mind and our tongue are in harmony with each other. We've talked a lot today already about feelings and thoughts going together. Our thoughts determine our feelings. For Lee, she said that her feelings determine her thoughts. In psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, thoughts determine feelings, feelings determine actions. And cognitive behavioral therapists teach participants to notice their thoughts, pause, feel their feelings, pause, and then think about their actions before they act. And this is the same kind of thing that Benedict is talking about in chapter 19. Know your mind and bring it into harmony with the words you speak, because God is watching. This is why Benedictines pray the divine office multiple times a day, to keep their mind, heart, words, actions in line with what they value. It's another form of self-care, so that when you go into a pastoral care setting, when you're out in the world and you don't know if someone who is a messenger for God, a potential care receiver, a friend from church who isn't ready to see your heart as God sees your heart, is watching, you're not going to act in a way that's incongruent with your values. In both chapter 17 and 19, Benedict is helping us to learn in community how heaven and earth unite, how God and human unite, how body, soul, and mind unite. In our module, there are some self-care questions that work hand in hand with the debriefing questions to help us align with our hierarchy of values, help us remember who we are and whose we are. The questions ask, do I see clearly? Am I able to refrain from trying to fix it? What am I able to do and what am I prepared to do? How much will I be available? Have I defined my own space and have I allowed the care receiver their own space? Have I used the ear of my heart in listening? I think that in those questions, boundaries are really what's coming up. Some of us are quick to say yes to anything asked of us because we have that heart of service. In pastoral care ministry, part of self-care is knowing when to say no and knowing that it's okay and we are still precious even if we say no to things. No, that is not a caregiver I can go visit. No, that is not a day I can come. No, that is not an organizational task I can take on. No, that is not my strength. And knowing when to say yes. Brene Brown, Episcopal business leader, motivational speaker, psychologist, says that you can help yourself with self-care and boundary setting by asking yourself when you're asked to serve, is it a hell yes? If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. If you're trying to fix it, it's a no. If you're not prepared, it's a no. Can you be there tomorrow at 8 with 5 pies? It's 6 o'clock in the evening right now. Nope, sorry, I can't do that. I'd really like to help you. I know you're in dire need, but that's just not something I can do right now. Self-care is extremely important in any kind of ministry. But when you're giving your whole self to the care of someone else, if you don't put your own oxygen mask on first, you won't be able to breathe in order to put someone else's oxygen mask on for them. So we're going to do another quick breakout session. And in this one, we're just going to take 5 minutes. And this is an opportunity for you to talk with your group about how you care for yourself. What are some of your go-to activities for relaxation, rest, renewal? There is a self-care checklist in your module if you want to look at that to get some ideas, if you don't already know. And then at the end of 5 minutes, we'll come back together.
There we go. Okay, everybody's gone. We've got Annie, Pat here, Brandon and Pam, like before.
Yep.
Pat, why don't you start for us?
Okay. I'm gonna start at the bottom of this self-care list and work my way back. How and when do I find time for rest, relaxation, and fun? I answered, no problem. I rest when I want to. I relax without feeling guilty. I have fun. And you know what I like to do? I like to watch Jimmy Kimmel, Steve Colbert, and I don't want to feel guilty. Look at him. Okay. How do I give my body the attention it needs? I go to the doctor and dentist regularly. I take loads of supplements. I eat very differently from most people because I live alone, very nutritiously. I exercise every morning, at least an hour, but I will admit I am watching Morning Joe while I do it. So, number 3, what helps to remind me of God's presence in ordinary events and situations throughout the day? What reminds me of God's presence? Everything. When I need guidance on how to do something, when something miraculously happens to me, I'm so delighted at his help in finding something, telling me how to order my steps. He helps me to order my steps. He really guides me. Number 2, how can I develop the habit of daily reflection upon scripture? I do read the rule. I read a little bit of the Bible. I reflect on the passage. I read God quotes. I did have a printed schedule in that fundamental church, but it was too hard. It was just too structured. So I like to be more flexible with, opening the Bible and just meditating and talking to him about a certain scripture. How do I create time in my daily schedule to spend in prayer? I don't try to be regimented so much. I try to do the meditation, then I combine it with prayer, because my meditation on that Reverend Mother Nancy, don't think about anything, throw away all the distractions. So then by that time, when I don't do anything, I combine it with prayer at the end that I want to talk to him about. I honestly talk to God a lot, all day. I talk to him at night in bed, when I go to the bathroom and I come back and I can't get to sleep. I talk to God a lot. That is my self-care checklist, Brandon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We were talking about how do we know we're precious, or how are we precious? I think the most evident precious thing you said on your self-care checklist is that you see God everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you.
And she prays without ceasing. All day, all night, always. Yeah.
I can see why you offered her a Hogwarts letter, Pam.
It's a Harry Potter reference, Pat.
It is Harry Potter. I know. I read it exactly on the way down to the beach. Yes, I know Harry Potter. In the fundamental church, oh no. Harry Potter was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had students who could not stay in the room when I read Harry Potter to the class.
Right, because their parents wouldn't want them to. Right.
No.
Yeah. Right.
No. Anyway, shall I go?
Mhm.
So one of the main things I had to learn having to do with self-care is to say no. The thing that we just talked about. When I was young and I had young children, I did everything. I was the Sunday school teacher, the scout leader, the brownie leader, you name it. I was in the choir. I was, and I was a teacher. And in those days, we were in the Middle East and we taught year round. I had a break in December, April, and August. The rest of the time I was teaching. So it was too much. And I didn't know how to say no. If there was a silence, if somebody said, I need a volunteer, blah, 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 and there was a moment of silence. Nobody was speaking. Guess who volunteered? Me. So I have learned, although Pat will say I do a lot. She's always telling me I do a lot. I do what I can fit in. And I do what brings me joy. And it's really important, I think, to look at your spiritual gifts. And if you don't have a gift for the thing you've been asked to do, say no. I've been hooked into some things I shouldn't have said yes to because it's not what I'm good at. So I think that's a big clue right there about what you should do and what you shouldn't do. So
I hate to be a curmudgeon, but time's up, guys.
Really?
Figured it would be. Thank you so much.
I didn't get to hear Brandon's at all.
Nature.
nature, he walks, he swims, he meditates, he's a photographer,
Oh,
a
yeah.
reader.
Mine is organization.
That's your fun.
Well, it's.
I love it.
Myself
Oh.
is keeping
Oh.
keeping my life orderly
Right, right. Oh,
and
so,
allowing a little bit of time at the end of the day for self-reflection.
yeah.
I do
Ignatian?
Hmm?
Do you do Ignatian examine at the end of the day?
Well, I'm not sure if
Oops.
that's structured, but right before bed, I read the rule. I got that Work of God book, the Psalms, organized in a Benedictine way. That's really good.
Yeah.
And I spend some time looking at my to-do list and organizing for the next day.
Love it.
I try to keep my life in the segments of my life organized in a way that I can do each thing so that when I do it, I can devote my full attention to it.
Great.
And that's because if things aren't where they're supposed to be, either mentally or physically, my wife will tell you, I'm very hard to live with. I gotta turn this off, guys.
Okay.
Gang is coming back. Here we go. Not sure what's going on. They're not coming back.
Because I gave them only 5 minutes this time. It was a test and they're not passing.
Here we go. They all got shut down. Here they come.
Are we here?
Yes.
Psalm 42. As the deer longs for the water brooks, so longs my soul for you, O God. My soul is athirst for God, athirst for the living God. When shall I come to appear before the presence of God? My tears have been my food day and night, while all day long they say to me, where now is your God? I pour out my soul when I think on these things, how I went with the multitude and led them into the house of God, with the voice of praise and thanksgiving among those who keep holy day. Why are you so full of heaviness, O my soul? And why are you so disquieted within me? Put your trust in God, for I will yet give thanks to him, who is the help of my countenance and my God. My soul is heavy within me. Therefore, I will remember you from the land of Jordan and from the peak of Mizar among the heights of Hermon. One deep calls to another in the noise of your cataracts. All your rapids and floods have gone over me. The Lord grants his loving kindness in the daytime. In the night season, his song is with me, a prayer to the God of my life. I will say to the God of my strength, why have you forgotten me? And why do I go so heavily while the enemy oppresses me? While my bones are being broken, my enemies mock me to my face. All day long they mock me and say to me, where now is your God? Why are you so full of heaviness, O my soul? And why are you so disquieted within me? Put your trust in God, for I will yet give thanks to him, who is the help of my countenance and my God. Amen. And thank you.
Thank you.
Be in the picture, so I'm not the only one.
Hey, thank you, Brandon. That was beautiful. Does anybody have any questions for Brandon?
And yes, Nina, I will send a copy of the poem to Trisha to send to all of you.
Thank you. That was, yeah, I was gonna say, there was a request in the chat for the poll, so thank you. Yes.
Great. Great.
And I'd like to know the book. I remember Sanford's The Presence, but there was another book you mentioned. It was based on him, or took it his a little
Yeah.
farther.
Yeah, the Almas. I'll send that.
Thanks. Oh, right.
And what were the verses of Samuel that you were talking about?
1 Samuel 16, 7b.
Okay.
7B.
I thought that's what he was saying. I looked that up and it makes sense to me. I couldn't find the B. Okay, not everybody will have the same. I have to look at my own different version. It's
Well, it definitely has been a topic that is something that we need to spend more time on. And I think we can definitely see the scriptural need for it and the Benedictine leadership in that and helping us to incorporate this into our day. And as much as we kick and fuss and run away from it, it is something that we need to do. We are called to do, to take care of ourselves and to love ourselves so that we can care for others. So thank you, Brandon, for helping us go through some of these emotions and get in touch a little bit with either our lack of or our practices that we do. So thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan.